Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second edition of Pass the Mic, Junge Gesichter gegen den Klimawandel. We invited 6 speakers from around the globe in 6 different sessions. And today we're going to look at Australia, and we have our speaker joining us live from there, which is Edo. And I'm very happy that he is here. So my name is Corinna, and I will be hosting today's show together with my co-host, Galf. You want to say hi, Galf?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Nice to be with you in this second session. I studied Bachelor Environmental Engineering with Corinna, and I'm really excited about today's talk.
Yay, me too. Cool. Okay, we are the youth initiative of the sustainability strategy of the country of Baden-Württemberg, or the county of Baden-Württemberg. And we are doing different events for young people between 16 and 26 years of age to tell them how simple it can sometimes be to act sustainably. So we give guided tours through the city of Stuttgart, or we are hosting different events. We're giving zero waste workshops, like my technical support today, my colleague Amelie. Maybe you can wave. Yay. Exactly. Yes, so this is what we do, and we also have a partner, which is the Development Education Information Center in Reutlingen, who are doing a lot of project and global learning. So they invite speakers from the global south, or they have educators here who live here in Germany but originate from the global south, to teach people also in sustainable actions, but from a global perspective. And here we have today Yvonne. Maybe Yvonne, you also want to wave or say hi.
Hallo an alle, ich werde mich auf Deutsch präsentieren. Ich bin Bildungswissenschaftlerin, habe in Themen Nachhaltigkeit schon seit 4 Jahren, bin ich Bildungsreferentin und ich freue mich auch heute dabei zu sein. Danke.
Thank you. Okay, so then let's dive into today's topic. Our speaker or expert from Australia is Adrian Webster. Thank you for being here with us today. He comes, let's just have a brief look at the map. And so he comes from Australia. I guess we all know where Australia is situated, but more precisely, he is from a region that is 3 hours drive from Sydney in the state of New South Wales, and it's called Jervis Bay. And yeah, just so you have a brief picture of where he is located. And if you see the map here, you can also see that like the climate zones of Australia, and he would be somewhere down here near Sydney, so it's in a temperate climate, and also has a lot of forests. Maybe we can see on this map here. We can also talk a bit more about this later, but this is just a quick introduction. So maybe if you saw the introduction, or if you read my mail, you have seen that he is from the Yuin people, and which is an indigenous people in Australia. Edo maybe can introduce himself and tell us a bit more about himself. I pass the mic to Edo. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Karina. With that, nga ga berang booming mo banje de ringan tangari. Nga nantri yaranji grang marang baranga baraga boraga bogia nga ga gaman wonder and ngora nga gaman maganinda nga ga gaman yendagan ngora pamaganinda. Yeah, so I'm Ado. Yeah, just then I spoke in some of our native language, our Gumea Darul language. And so what I said then is I'm a proud Yuan, Wabanja, Wandawandian, and Diringanj Dangari man. Yeah, so I'm from the South Coast. Yeah, I acknowledge that where I am today is Wandawandian Nowra country. And I'd also like to acknowledge the country wherever you guys are, and I'd like to acknowledge your ancestors. Yeah, so wherever yous are. Yeah, so this is all about yeah, climate change from what I gather, and yeah, that's something that our people have yeah, been talking about and been trying to help solve yeah, forever. We've always known about yeah, climate change and the effects it's having on us. So in yeah, my time, in my personal time, yeah, I've seen a lot of neglect when it comes to our yeah, when it comes to our country, when it comes to our natural environment. There's a lot of government agencies who say that they're taking care of that and they're looking after that, but yeah, from what I'm seeing is they just put a fence on it and they lock us out, and they think that because it's natural, it's native, that's going to help it, but that's where they're getting a massive thing wrong here, because people belong in the landscape. We're a part of the environment, and now yeah, we're becoming more and more disconnected, and so yeah, the main effects we're having now is the absence of our people in the natural environment. You know, people are spending all day in town or spend all day at home. No one's out in the landscape and doing what we should be anymore. And that's where we're getting a lot of things wrong, especially with our land management. So just to give you guys a bit more of an idea of who I am and where I come from, I've got a video here of one of my uncles, and yeah, he holds more like a father role for me in my life, and yeah, and not just me, but for a lot of the community here on the South Coast. So I'll just play this quick video so you all get an yeah, better understanding of where I'm at, and
we go to the mountain, goes to home, no matter how far we roam. It'll always be our home. Every time we go away, like, we get called back to the community. This is where we come from. Ngadi and Tunka, they was the first two human beings put on the earth, and they were put here. Ngadi, she's the woman. We always say Ngadi first because everything is birthed from a woman. Yeah? That's why we call her Earth, Mother. She birthed all this here, all the surrounding here. It's all here. And them four taps, they represent the four of us. How many people walk in here, and that's to let the old people know, old spirit people. That's just let them know that we're coming into this sacred area. This is the first part of creation story. And if you have a look, this one here, that's the woman. She represents the mother, Minga. Look through them two trees there. And that's the man, yeah. When the man and woman is in unity, like these two rocks here, creates life, yeah. And 9 months later, little baby comes, yeah. Good job. Well, there, this is woman's area here. I mean, I taught them about woman stuff and pregnancy. So this is a pregnant woman rock. So when we walk past, we just sort of rub her belly and say in the head, give her thanks for, yeah, thanks for birthing, giving us birth. So we're thanking like our flesh mum, as well as spiritual mum, and Mother Earth. This is where we taught about life, creation, respect. Yeah. We can get down here. What we ask the people when they get here, just tell them look around at the trees and ask them what do you see in the trees, in the squiggly lines on the bark and stuff like that. And I tell them to look a bit further into it, like you got to look at how we look at and start seeing boomerangs, okay? Start seeing spears, start seeing like shelter, start seeing them two sticks that we got to rub together to bring that dead wood back to life. We see food in them trees here, birds and that, guanos, possums. What else lives in the tree, right? And we see all that. See from here down, that's all woman's area. We're not allowed to go down there. Yeah. And because of what's here, she's given birth. Everything's here, see, so you can see and feel. You can feel the sacredness and the significance of these areas, and the respect that we have. Oh, see how we started at the start with the man and woman rock, stones. We finish here at the man and woman trees. Without the stone, we couldn't have the tree and all that stuff that we got in the trees. And that's the respect we've got to have for both man and woman in culture. It's that connectedness, yeah, belonging here, belonging to the country. So it doesn't matter where we go, what we do, we always just get, she calls us back every time.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my Uncle Warren. So yeah, he's one of my teachers, and yeah, and where he was just then on Gulliga Mountain. So that's probably about another 2, almost 3 hours south from where I am. And yeah, the reason why I wanted to show you that is, yeah, to show you yeah, a bit more about our culture, and there's some good shots of our landscape. So yeah, you could see that, but also that mountain. Yeah, there's lots of different stories, and one of them is about climate change, and it's about it's about one of the water levels coming up, water rises, and yeah, so in our tribe or in our society, our community, yeah, everyone's equal. even the leaders, they sit in our circle. So when we sit in a circle, everyone is equal, everyone's even. There's no heads or there's no leaders. We all just sit together on that one level, and that goes for everyone in our community. And so back a long time ago, that one of the leaders of the tribe, he got into mischief, and because he was the leader, he thought that he could just avoid owning up to that and doing the right thing, and I don't know, giving people the justice or letting people have their justice. And because he was like the leader, he thought he could get away with it, and so he wouldn't confront the people, and when the people would confront him, he'd run off and hide. And he done that for a while, and then it got to the point where the tribe back then they had their meeting and decided that they got to go after him and catch this man. And so when they confronted him, he saw what was going on, and he got scared, so he pulled out two of his weapons. And so our weapons, we have boomerangs is one of our main ones, and so he pulled out two of those, and when he started waving them around in the air, it made a really great disturbance in the environment, and there's big winds and big storm, and it got that ferocious that it made that water come up as well. And so the water came up and flooded that whole area, and the whole tribe, they all drowned, and like a few swam out who made it to the land. And when they got to the land, it was onto that mountain where they crawled out. And the rest of the tribe, everyone turned into fish. And and that's pretty much the ending of that story. Like there's more detail in the story itself, but just briefly going through it, that's the story. And that's why us as Yuin people, so we classify ourselves as Katangumaran. And the word Maran that means people, and the word Mara means fish. So we still show that similarity between us and those people who turned into fish, or us turning from fish into people. Whichever way you see it, but we still acknowledge that connection of the ocean, and that's what Katangumaran means. It means southern saltwater man or person. So because of those stories and things like that, we know about water coming up, and we've got stories too of when the waters went back out and back up again. There's I don't know, it's been going on for a long time, and the way we've always fought it is with staying connected with the environment and solely doing everything to enhance that. Like we've never tried to manipulate the landscape to benefit our needs. We've always altered our needs or ourselves to suit the environment. And that's why all across Australia, even though now it's known as one continent, but for Indigenous people, the original people, there's hundreds, probably thousands of different countries within this continent. Just within the Yuin nation, there's 13 different tribal groups and 13 different languages. But just like each of those languages that all have different dialects as well, same within those tribal groups, there's different clans and families and all that. But all together as a collective, when we all unite, we all come under Yuin. And so, we have totems as well. So the Yuin totem is the Pacific black duck. So every Yuin person has that one same totem. And so that unites us and makes us all family because, our animals and our totems, they come into our kinship, our family structure. And so if I have the same totem as someone anywhere in Australia, they're instantly just as close to me as like a blood relation. So they're aunties, uncles, sisters, brothers, whatever. And I know that's why it makes it so easy for us to travel, because we know we have family no matter where we go. And our stories as well connect us up. But like in that video too, you would have heard my uncle talking a lot, how he calls the land our mother, he calls the earth our mother. And that's the main reason too why we never left the environment, because we see it as our mother, we see it as our family. It's it's everything for us. Everything we could ever want, need, or ask for, all comes from the land, and she happily gives us that. And we don't have to pay her with currency. Like, all we have to do is just give back good energy, give back respect, and just being there for her and doing things and connecting with her. And that's where so many of us are going wrong now, because we're just sitting in our office, sitting behind our computer screens, and no one's out there actually physically on the landscape anymore. And that's where they get things wrong, because here in Australia, we've been managing the land with fire for so long that every animal, every plant, everything has synced in and learnt what we're doing, because it's not our way. We didn't make this way ourselves. Like, I know we read and interpret the landscape to do what it's needing, and to do that you need to be there. You need to physically be there in the present moment, and you need to be touching stuff, looking at things, and understanding like exactly what's going on from the soil, like all the way up through the canopy. You need to understand what animals are in there, when they're in there, what they're doing, what they're eating. You need to know the symbiotic relationships with the plants. So you need to. I know it's hard for me to talk about it because I'm in a room and there's the wrong way of doing it. Like, we don't talk for country way like this. So for me to do it, I need to actually stand in that certain ecosystem, and it's just like a book. So I can read this book out, and it's easy because I have it here and I can see it. But if I put it away and I'm trying to tell you about that book, everything now is just coming out of my head, so it's becomes a little bit altered. And so the way to get rid of that is if we go stand in that landscape and I start reading it out like a book. I can tell you all the things it's telling me, and because it's all observational. Like, we look at it and we understand what's going on, and throughout all that understanding and that respect, we've learnt when fire goes into each ecosystem and how it affects it. And over those hundreds of thousands of years of trial and error, we've got it into that way now where, we enhance each symbiotic relation. And that's how we look at the country. So we look at each tree as its own environment, because off one tree, there's a certain soil that it grows in. And out of that soil, from that root system, there'll often be like mycorrhizal kind of mycelium kind of, like these underground networks. And so even all of that stuff as well, that all is very vital, and we need to understand and respect that and acknowledge that. And yeah, so once we start looking at things like that, then now we have a better understanding of what a healthy ecosystem is. Because when we go into an ecosystem, they're the first things we're looking for. So we look at the soil, and then from the color and the feel and the texture of the soil, we know what trees are meant to be in that soil. And then so from doing the math, so you look at the soil, all right, it's this color. Look at the tree, all right, that's the right tree. So then instantly you know that that's where that tree belongs. And then when those two are correct, you can start going, all right, well, if that tree's in the right soil, then where's the grass? Where's that grass that goes with that tree? Or where's that little medicine plant that goes with that tree? And yeah, even the animal, you'll know what animal inhabits that tree or eats the grasses from under that tree. And so when you start looking for all those connections or all those broken connections, you can start to figure out the health of that ecosystem. And so that's how we read and look at the landscape, like differently to our the people who are currently managing it, because they don't look at it into that kind of detail. So when our government, like our rural fire service, I don't know, they get it wrong from the start. So they're firefighters, and so they're trained to fight fire, and I don't know, they're good at putting them out. They have all the resources to put out fires and all that kind of stuff, and it takes a really brave and special person to be able to do that. But in saying that, they've been taught to put out fires, and now they're the ones who are in charge to put fires into the landscape, which has a ridiculous effect, like whether it's good or bad. But these people, they've got it wrong because they don't know how to put in a fire. They don't know why to put in a fire. They don't know where to put it in. They just know that it has to be done because, like now, when we get to the end of the year, it's too hot and it's too dangerous, and wildfire is, scary, and we don't want that. And so for our government, their main reason they put fire in instead of putting it out is just to reduce fuel loads. So when a wildfire does come, there's less fuel on the ground for it to burn. But they'll sit in an office or they'll look at maps, and then they'll decide how big the burn is going to be or how much fuel they need to remove. And then, that's what they consider. And then from there, they'll go out with all their fire trucks and they will, put in line fires. So once they figure out their burn block, what they call it, they'll, draw lines of fire along each edge of that block. And like a square, they just box it in. And so once they do that, they create a box. And so when that box is burning, it's moving in. And as it's moving in, it's heating on itself, it's getting hotter. So it just ends up like vortexing in the middle. It gets really hot. And I don't know, because everything's scared of fire, as soon as you put it in, it starts running and starts moving. And the way that they put it in, by drawing that square and letting it burn into itself, everything outside of that square is safe, and out of harm's way, but anything inside that square is going to run inwards. And so from all angles, everything's running in. And yeah, as I said, it just vortexes in the middle. So not only all the trees that's in the middle get cooked, but all the animals, all the insects, everything. And the reason why they do that is because to them there's no assets within that burn block. There's nothing in there they want to protect, nothing in there they want to save. Everything that is at risk is outside of the burn block. So that's why they put all their fire engines around the burn block, and they wait for the worst case scenario, which is the fire is going to leave that burn block and burn somewhere else. And for us, like that's heartbreaking, because we traditionally did those same fires like a long time ago, but for one reason, and that was for warfare. And it was exactly the same way they're doing it now. And so when we watch our government agencies go out and do their basic land management, we're watching them declare war on our animals and declaring war on our trees, on our ecosystem, and that's why things are going so wrong. And yeah, they take all that all those resources, all those fire trucks, because they don't know what's going to happen, because they don't know about putting fire into a landscape. They only know about putting it out. And so to reassure themselves, to make them feel safe, they buy all this, they call it PPE, so personal protective equipment. So they cover themselves with helmets and goggles and gloves and boots and fireproof clothing and all this kind of stuff. And all those fire trucks, they take all that with them to build a sense of security, because they have no idea how that fire is going to behave. They don't know if it's going to be a small fire or if it's going to be big or intense or what. It's just they just hope for the best. And so whereas when we go and burn, like there's kids running around with no shoes, there's old people who can't even walk, but it's a totally different atmosphere, because we walk in there with the knowledge of that fire behavior and that landscape. So we know everything that's going to happen before it happens. And that's why we can walk in there, without shoes on. And this is in a bushfire, while the fires are burning, we can walk around without shoes, because when it's done in that right way and in that respectful way of that environment, none of our animals have personal protective equipment. So if we need that, then our animals are going to need that. And they don't, and it's impossible to give them all that. So we burn in a way that we don't need it, and that the insects or the animals don't need it. Because none of our animals even have hoofed feet. All our native animals have soft, padded feet. And so we need to keep all of that into consideration as well, because if our fires are hurting them or harming them, then it's wrong and it's bad. And so that's what our government agencies are missing out. And the way we do it too, so we'll never light line fires. We always just put in a spot. And so when you just put in a spot, it grows out in a circle and it gets bigger. And so that way it's pushing things away from the fire. Things are running and it can escape in every angle. And then when our fires are burning, they're just small and they're trickling, and as they're spreading out, sometimes things don't burn, so that fire front, it breaks, and it's not always a consistent circle of flame spreading out. There's always bits that die off or don't burn, or the wind will push it in a different direction, which is good because it allows breaks in the fire and the animals can run back in, insects and that can crawl back in, and because everything knows it's safe. Once that fire's gone through, they can't come back and burn again. So the animals only walk or run until they can move back into that burntness, and then they know they're safe and they're protected then. So I've got another video, so I'll play this, and this will just give you a bit more visuals of of an actual burn. So we done this burn back in 2018, and there's only 3 of us, and we were all the same age. Between the 3 of us, we had 1 car. 2 of us had jobs, so we all had to take shifts and make sure that this fire was safe. But here's a quick.
Yeah, so here we are, 24 hours after we put our burns into the gum tree country. Yeah, they're still kicking on slowly, nicely plodding along, doing their thing. But yeah, that's exactly what we want, you know. We want the fire and the country to do what it needs to do. Like, we don't decide when to put the fire in, it's not our decision. Yeah, we just interpret and read the country, and when it needs it and it's asking for it, we'll put it in. And then at the same time, we're not going to run in and put it out or put in control lines and things. The country already has those measures in place. So in this gum country, this will keep burning until we get over here and those other trees start coming in. There's a few bloodwoods up over the hill. So once that fire reaches that ecosystem automatically changes, and the soils are different and the plants are different, and the ecosystem will be a lot greener. So it'll put itself out there. So when we put it in, we just leave it and we let it go. If it goes overnight, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll keep monitoring it and see how it goes. But yeah, we don't try and force it to hurry up or we try and put it out. That's against our culture, it's against what we do. The fire in the country knows what it needs to do, and we let that and we encourage that.
And I'd just like to read this here part out again. We pay our respects to the Kukul Taipan elders, the late Dr. George Musgrave and the late Dr. Tommy George and Uncle Victor Stephenson. Without those 3 amazing men, I wouldn't be doing this fire stuff. And that's, if you can, try and find this book, Fire Country. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, so that's Uncle Victor. He just read this book, and some really good stories in there. And if you want to learn more about this cultural fire stuff, why we do it, when and where, and all that. A lot of that information's in that book. Sorry.
Thank you, Aido, so far. There's a question in the chat, and I want to ask Simon, if you want to ask it yourself.
Yeah, sure. I was just wondering, does the government fire service has a cooperation, or does they, is there an exchange with your knowledge?
Not really. But for us to get the trust within the government or within the public, we had to do all their training first. So for them to trust us to light a fire, we had to show them we had their knowledge to put it out. And so once we'd done their training, which went for a fortnight, or not it, it might have went for 2 weeks. And so then we got certificates to say we were bush firefighters. And then from there we went and we started learning our stuff, and there was a few representatives there, but once they saw what we did and what was going on, they freaked out because it was totally different. And the way that the fire behaved, they'd never seen that before. They'd never seen it so calm, and they'd never seen people so calm around the fire. And yeah, that freaked them out, and it made them listen, made them take it on board, because as well we couldn't lie, and they couldn't not see the truth, because once we told them what we were going to do and then we did it and it all happened, you can't deny it, you know. And it shocked them and it scared them, because they didn't know that kind of knowledge existed. And yeah, I don't know, some of them, or one of them, like we only so when we're learning this fire stuff, we're told it's like karate. So one environment, one ecosystem is like your first belt, and then when you learn the next environment, you get another belt. You keep getting all these belts as you're progressing and as you're learning. And so we was just getting our white belt, and we was with the RFS, and yeah, they thought it was so perfect and so kind of unbelievable that they went and read a book about it. And so now they're using our knowledge against us. So they're trying to tell us that what we know now is insignificant in the modern day, because the landscape's changed. So we need to now listen to them and morph our knowledge with their knowledge to make a new knowledge, which doesn't make sense, because they didn't bring the trees here, they didn't bring the soil here. It's all natural. The only thing that has changed is they've cleared land and made their own assets. So they've made houses and communities and things like that, which they love and protect. And see, they don't understand that our people, we've always had assets. That's the animals, that's the trees, and our people, our country, you know, our Mother Earth. And if we could protect all those things from wildfire and all that stuff from the past for hundreds of thousands of years, and I'm sure we can still do it now. You know, and the townships are out of the bush, like they've cleared the bush to make the town. So I'm sure if we can put a fire in the bush to protect the trees, I'm sure we can burn the bush to protect the houses that are outside of the bush. But I don't know, these are all different things that we face, and different struggles and issues we have, and why a lot of it comes back to politics. So with the government, they tell us that, no, you're Aboriginal, the fires that you do, they're cultural burns, and that's all they're good for. They're just cultural, like that's just your thing. But the RFS, they all burn for hazard reduction. So they reduce the hazard by removing fuel. And then a new thing now that the government wants to do is ecological burns, because after we told them how much or how good our burns are for the environment, now we'll make an ecological burn because that's even better for the environment. And so they're naming and giving fire all these different names and categories, when really there's only right and wrong. And the right way is to listen to the environment, do what's needed for that environment, and then treat them all individually, give them all their own unique respect and honour. And see, that's the way we do it. So when we was burning in that gum country, we could light that up and let that go, because that was ready. And when it's ready, like, you have all these different indicators that tell us. So the first one doesn't even belong in that ecosystem. So we have to make sure we manage everything, otherwise we're going to miss those indicators that tell us what to do and where and when. And so for that gum country, we had to wait for that big bloodwood tree up on the hill to flower. And so when that flowered, that told us that the grass under the gum trees will be curing. And so when we go to the gum tree and look at the grass and it's cured, it's half green and it's half dead, like, all right, we can burn this. Because, yeah, the animals are gone now. Their food, their main food source is gone. Because in that gum country, like, there was no grass whatsoever. It was just full of leaf, and that's wrong. And so we know that that is wrong. And that's because of neglect, because our people haven't been there to burn that leaf away. And yeah, if we were to leave that, yeah, I know it's longer, but it's got like a really bad decaying effect. So that the leaf, like on that particular spot where we burn in that video, so there was a wildfire 60 years before we done that fire. So there was 60 years of fuel accumulation. And yeah, so for 60 years, those leaves had sat there and slowly breaking down. And because in that gum country, it likes really dark and compact soil. And because it's dark, when the sun hits it, the moisture gets pushed down really quick. That soil dries out because it's dark. It's a dark soil, and dark colors attract the heat. So when the sun shines down on that, it pushes that moisture away. But now there's been this massive big mulch layer of leaf for 60 years, which is breaking down itself and making its own organic matter, which is foreign to that soil. So all them seeds under that soil, when they come up, they hit that and they get sick. Too, because it's acting like mulch, there's a lot more moisture in that soil than there should be. So the trees get lazy, and instead of the roots digging deep and holding in, they just spread out. And so when the wind comes, they blow over. And these are like massive trees that should live to 1,000 years or beyond. And yet we're struggling to see them get to 300. And it's because we neglect them. It's because we're not there looking after them or caring for the soil or caring for those symbiotic relations. Like gum trees, those specific gum trees that were in that video don't belong in leaf litter. There's only one ecosystem in Australia that should have consistent leaf litter, and that's in the rainforest. You know, all the other ones should be clean and open. When Uncle was talking on that mountain, like for you guys, you might think that was nice and beautiful and it was green and natural. But when we watch that and we look at that, that's sick and it's disgusting and it hurts us. And especially on a place like that mountain, because that's so sacred to us. And yeah, if we want to go to that mountain, you know, we need to ring up the National Parks and Wildlife and we need to argue with them that we need a key to get in a gate. And then we have to argue the point that we've got people who can't walk up a mountain and we need to drive them because they're old. And, you know, it's still not good enough for us to access our own sacred areas. You know, they have to go and have a board meeting and then that board has to come to a conclusion and then they've got to let us know. And I know that it takes weeks, you know, sometimes months, just for them to even organise to have a meeting. And yeah, so wrong the way that they control and manipulate our culture still and our people and what they're doing with us. Yeah, do we have any more questions?
Manuel?
Yeah, I got one, Adu. Hi. Thanks so far for the very inspiring talk and insight on fire management, and I'm really surprised how complex this issue is. And I was wondering, if it also depends on the situation where people behave differently. Like you are, for example, put the fire according to when you observe nature is right for being lit or kind of, and the government is putting controlled fire when they see as case of emergency. Do you also see where do we have to distinguish between different situations, or are there also situations where you can use different approaches with the same outcome?
Well, yeah, no, so, what our government tells us is there's a really short window of burning opportunity, and which is true, but that's for each ecosystem. And so because they all don't happen at the one same time, they all line up. And so once they're all lined up, we can pretty much burn all year round. But they won't listen to us about that. They don't want to know that. They just want to keep it in that one short time frame because the destruction that it causes and what happens. So with my dad, my real dad, so he worked with national parks, and national parks, so they manage all our native land and our animals, and the RFS, they're the fire service, and every year they call it fire season, and that's their big money maker because the government agencies now have to respond to emergencies and people are putting their life at risk. So the pay that they earn within that short frame is probably more than they earn all year. And so they love that fire season. And it's only gotten worse and worse because they're jamming all the seasons into that one window. When they're burning it like that, only one ecosystem is going to come out okay. And that's depending on its health, on where it was at before it got burnt. And that's why, like in that last video that I showed you, when I was lighting a fire and I knew what was going out in the next ecosystem, because I knew that that entire environment that I was in with all those gum trees was ready. And every environment outside of that was not ready. So I knew if I went into the middle of the gum country, lit it and walked away, that whole gum country will burn until it met every ecosystem on the edge of it. And it wouldn't burn them because they're not ready. They were all too green. And that's how we built that, like a mosaic pattern. And so we burn this ecosystem and that'll put itself out of the next one. And then we'll get to that one and we'll burn that one if it was ready, and then it will burn to the next one. And so we just walked around there like that and just lit each ecosystem when they're ready, and they'll burn to the next. And so if it wasn't too green on the other side to burn, everything's too moist and not ready, it was already burnt. So the fire had nowhere to go. And that's why when the land had that consistently for hundreds of thousands of years without breaking that, when a wildfire did start from lightning, there was only that one ecosystem that was going to burn. And depending on its health, it probably didn't even burn all the way. And so each ecosystem is ready at a different time of the year. But so realistically, we could be burning all year round, but not one ecosystem. But they try and burn every ecosystem while one's ready. And so they try and do things right, but so the fire's going to behave good in that ecosystem that's ready to burn, but the other ones, it's different. And two, when when the country's ready, it's ready. So you could just light one match and drop it and it's going. It's going to take off. And when it's not ready, it's not going to burn. You could sit there and try and force it, and it doesn't want to do it. And that's where the RFS think that it's good, because it's going to be smaller and a lower fire. So what they do is then they put in more and more fire to build the intensity to a point where it takes off and goes on its own. And once they get to that point, yeah, it's crazy that that ecosystem just gets obliterated. And when, yeah, it doesn't want to burn, but yet they force it. And because of the way they do it too, is they keep putting fire in, and the more you put in, they heat off each other. And yeah, it helps it. They help each other, and then they will finally meet, and then yeah, erupt. So yeah, I don't know. It's like everything they're doing is wrong, because yeah, they don't listen and they don't observe, and yeah, they're not in it for the right thing, I don't think.
Can I ask you a follow-up question on that?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think it's also a matter of funding? Like, I observe it in many different areas that or fields, that if the more knowledge you need to obtain in order to do something, it comes with more costs. So, and do you think that the government are not putting enough effort or money into training their firefighters? And then I could assume that well-trained firefighters with your knowledge are capable of doing much more good to the environment. So is it also a matter of funding, or?
No, it's definitely not that. It's just got to come back to ignorance, I reckon. Because just that last wildfire we had, I know so much money is coming to this country, and for all like different, I don't know what you'd even call them, like non-for-profit organizations. So they've got all like different charities, like some raise millions, and there's multiple different charities that raise millions of dollars over that fire. And a lot of it went to the RFS, to the Rural Fire Service, and instead of training people, they thought they needed more equipment, more machinery, more fire trucks and aeroplanes and things to fight fire, because they know that the way they're doing things is making things worse. So they need to prepare for that. They need to get ready for that. So instead of trying to fix things, they're just waiting for things to get worse. And I see it in everything, not just land management, but in our health system, with our education, everything. It's always, everyone waits until there's something bad happens, then we have to react to that. There's never any prevention. You know, that's where the miracle is. It's in that preventative work, because then at the end of the day, it pays off when you prevent those bad things from happening.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Please just write an X in the chat or write your question in German and we will translate it.
I won't translate it. I wonder, we did the poll right in the beginning, Aido, and there was one question. It was about the climate change effects that the UN people are already experiencing. And there were the answers, options were bushfire, water level rising, extinction of species. What kind of climate change effects are you currently experiencing? Well, for us, so our plants and our flowers, so for us, that's our calendar. So when I was saying before, when that bloodwood flowered, we knew that we had to go and burn the gum country. And so heaps of our fish and our marine animals, because we're saltwater people, Katangumaran, we've synced up a lot of the breeding patterns of our fish and lobsters and things like that. And because of the way we're not managing the country anymore, and the way the weather's warming up and drought, we're getting a lot of drought now. Our flowers are going out, so they're not coming in at the right time anymore, or they're not flowering at all, or only some will and others won't, because the health of the landscape is so imbalanced and so out of balance that things don't sync up anymore. Sometimes the flowers come on before our fish, and sometimes they're coming after, or the fish come before the flower. So everything for us was came from the earth. That's why we never needed to make books and write things down, because there's like a consistent book that was alive that spoke to us. And so when we learn and understand all those different indicators and different messages that the land's telling us, then we learn how to react and respond to that and work with nature instead of against it, or forcing relationships. But sorry.
In which way do you think that we, as non-indigenous people, are acting in a wrong way, or like our lifestyles are wrong, or do you have any kind of teachings for us?
The only wrong way I can see is just people just not listening, or building separation and building segregation, or whatever you call it. So we see ourselves, right? So we call the mother, or the earth, our mother, and we call the trees and even all the animals, they're all relations as well. So they're aunties and uncles and that as well. And if I can say that about trees and animals, then people, it's the same, I see all of you mob, even though you're a German, we all come from the earth. So we're all children of the earth. So realistically, we're all siblings. And we should be working together. We shouldn't be fighting and saying, oh, you're this and I'm that, and you do things your way and I do things mine. And there should be none of that. It should be, hey, let's all do things the right way now. Let's listen to the environment. Let's do what's best for it, and let's work on that. Let's put our own individual things aside, and our main priority, our main thing we should be fighting for is that one common cause, and that's to better the environment. Any more questions?
Yeah, I think we have a question from Leo. Leo, would you want to ask? Okay, I'll ask. What do you think about the big fires this year? And what do you think was the main reason? Because in the media, they said the specific triggers of the fire were things like defect power lines, thunderstorm lightning, and arson. But what about the long-term reasons why, like climate factors?
Sorry, can you just repeat the last bit?
He asked, what do you think about the big fires this year? What do you think was the main reason? Because in the media, they said the specific triggers of the fire were things like perfect power lines, thunder, lightning, and arson. But what about the long-term reasons like climate factor?
Well, yeah, the main reason that led that to happen was neglect. And because we neglected, or not purposely, we was forced off our land there. And whilst we was forced off our lands, other people stepped up and said they were going to manage it. And they're the ones who fenced it off, and they're the ones who are still neglecting our land now. And because of that neglect, everything they fenced off has fallen to pieces for 200 plus years. It's allowed all those ecosystems along the East Coast to form like one giant sick ecosystem. And because they're all sick and none of them had been managed, they'd filled up with fuel. Like some would have had almost, 200 years worth of fuel. And then, all that neglect and all that missed time of no land management, allowed that fire to burn through all those ecosystems because there's no diversity, there's no greening or drying out and different things of the ecosystem. It was just one. And that's the main thing is, no one had been managing the land for so long. But then the firefighters, the ones who were fighting the fire, I know they let it, so they only tried to stop it when it was coming towards towns and houses. So when the fire went off and was just burning into the bush, that was all right, they left it. But they didn't try and fight it until it was coming towards property or towards their assets that they wanted to protect. And a lot of the time, the firefighters were putting in backburns to try and burn into the fire. So if they can burn the fuel before that fire comes and send the fire back into it, it is a better way when you know how to do that kind of stuff. But if you don't know the ecosystem or fire behavior in that ecosystem, then trying to use that to your advantage is so stupid. And that's what they did. And a lot of the times when that was televised or talked about, it always ended up bad. And especially here, like where I'm from, if you can go back onto that map later on and see where I come from, when you go to that last image when it's zoomed in of Jervis Bay, you can see right at the top there's a river, Shoalhaven River at Nowra. And so the fire burnt up to that river, and for 3 days it tried to cross. And where it was trying to cross was exactly where mad. So up between where it says Bomaderry and Nowra, there's that river there. And so the fire burnt up to that river, and it was on the south side for 3 days. And there's a massive big southerly wind coming, and so after that third day of that fire sitting on that river, the RFS, because they have Facebook, they made a Facebook announcement, and they were just so stoked and so happy about their crew and their efforts. And they were pretty well certain, they were guaranteed that they had stopped the fire. And so just to make sure that they stop it, they were going to put in one last backburn to just to block it in, just to make sure that it was certain. And they lit that backburn fire within hours of a predicted weather change. And so they lit that fire, and within a few hours, the wind completely turned direction and at a really big intensity as well. And yeah, that linked that fire then on and created new fires. And I don't know, I saw a map before of the fires and stuff of the land that burnt in our country, and that would have been at the early beginning stages of last year's wildfire. Yeah, so all that redness now, you can pretty much connect them all up, and that's what's burnt. And a crazy thing that came out, and so I don't know if it's still just a conspiracy or whatever you'd call it, but yeah, so up and down that east coast, so that whole bit is burnt, and it was, I don't know, a few months after that had burnt, and when those last fires stopped, there's an announcement made that they want to make a new rail line, like a speed rail linking all the major cities along the east coast. And when they put out the map of that rail line of where it wants to go, it fit perfectly in between that burnt area. And so I know when they upgrade the highway or when developments want to happen, there's always a lot of restrictions here because of the environment. There's little rare species of something that always stops a project from happening. And yeah, I feel like to try and avoid all that kind of stuff on this big rail line, yeah, they kind of wanted this fire to happen, and yeah, they kind of encourage things and they do that kind of stuff. Yeah, so our government and that here is, yeah, I don't know, they love money and they love doing things their way, and there's never any consultation, especially with our people, because yeah, our government gets enough headache off the environmentalists, let alone the traditional people who belong to the land. But yeah, there's heaps of different factors too. So I can point the finger in my own community as well, because there's a lot of Aboriginal people who, you know, they're not keeping up to our duties. Like, that's something we all should be doing. You know, we all take from the land, we all should be giving back.
Yeah, I really like the statement that you once made when we talked, that you said, you know, even the laptop we are currently using, it all has resources that come from the earth. So we should value the earth for giving us these kind of resources. Can you tell us a bit how, like, when the fire was there, like maybe now in 2019/20, how did you feel during that time, and how did your village or city look like at that time?
Well, for me, that was probably yeah, the most depressing thing I've ever had to experience. Only because I knew that everything I've been doing the last, 5-6 years is to prevent things like that from happening, and then to actually watch it happen and to have no control or no voice or know anything to go out and do anything. Yeah, it's kind of depressing and hurtful, and yeah, I don't know how else to really sum it up. So where I'm at, yeah, there's one road in to our town. So we're out on the coast, and there's one road in. And so once the fire got to that, or even to the highway that road connects to, yeah, our town was shut off. So, and that was on New Year's Eve. So on New Year's and all that, yeah, we couldn't, yeah, go anywhere. We couldn't visit family. yeah, we didn't know what the hell was going on. There wasn't much food in the shop because at the time, it was the end of the year. There's a lot of tourists, and I don't know, everyone was warned before they came down that all this stuff's going on, so don't travel. But yeah, because I don't know, people love the ocean and beaches and stuff, they still come. And yeah, our small little towns were overpopulated, and we've only got one shop, and it's not very big, and yeah, it doesn't hold a lot of food. And yeah, so that all went because people were panicking and didn't know if, yeah, how long the shops and stuff were going to be open and things like that. Yeah, so it was pretty chaotic, but afterwards it was just as bad because when all the fires went and all the tourists went, yeah, people, it was like no one cared anymore. It was like the damage was done and everyone just went home and back to the city and yeah, kind of ignored it. And yeah, we got no attention. We never got asked by any local media what we thought about it or if there was anything that could have been done or anything. The only attention we got, it was all from international people. So within a week of that fire stopping in our area, I met up with a lady from South Africa. I met up with a man from France. He was on the radio. And we met up with a news crew from Switzerland. And so we had all these people from different countries who wanted to know and wanted to see what happened and things like that. And not one of our own national media like wanted to know anything. And yeah, that's like another hurtful thing. You know, you just feel so voiceless and unappreciated. And especially when you know everything you have to give is good and is only going to benefit everyone. Yeah, it's really frustrating. And it's still like that now, you know. All that stuff's happened because no prevention work's going on, and yeah, we let that happen, and still now there's no prevention work going on now. Yeah, so we still didn't learn anything.
I have a question. What do you think Germany can do in relation to what you guys are doing? What do you think Germany can do better, or even other parts of the world?
Yeah, I don't know. Listen to each other. Have an open mind when you're speaking and sorting out issues, and yeah, listen and value what other people have to say. And yeah, always just respect and take in what everyone has to say. Everyone's equal. No one's knowledge is greater than others, and yeah, we should look at it like that because our people, we don't get listened to because we don't have a piece of paper to say that we went to university. And yeah, that's the main reason they don't listen to us. So they think, yeah, we're just, I don't know, sit out in the bush and we don't know anything. But we're out in the bush where that is our university. And if, I don't know, it's just different ways of looking at it. Or different ways of valuing people.
Thank you very much, Aido. I think I wish to speak for all, but I will speak for myself. I value your opinion a lot, and I thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us today and your experiences. And I hope that the audience could take something away for themselves and maybe see some changes that everyone can make for themselves. Unfortunately, we are at the end of the 90 minutes. So if someone has a last question, we are open to receive it now.
Is that a new question from Simon?
Oh, am I not seeing something? Ooh. Oh, wow.
So what keeps me motivated? Well, yeah, what keeps me motivated is the first time we went to a place to burn. It was reasonably healthy. I thought it was completely healthy. And yeah, so once I got told that how unhealthy that place was and that I was never going to see it in its full health, its full potential, yeah, it kind of broke my heart because I thought I was already looking at it. And to know that there was no one alive at that present day that was going to see that, it was going to take generations and generations to get there. And so we need to be motivated now and work hard now and make those first steps of healing and progression into that future, so those people in the future have that pristine, beautiful, perfect, intact environment to look at and appreciate. Because, yeah, I thought I had it, but I was, taught that I didn't. And to have that taken off me, motivated me to let my kids see that when I have them, or let their kids see that. But yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in, listening, and being here. And yeah, thanks for asking me to talk for Australia and our people.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, everyone, also for coming and being attentive all through.
Yes. And thank you, Gal, for being my co-moderator, and thank you, Yvonne and Manu and Amelie for working in the background. For next week, we have a new talk coming up, and it's going to be Renee who will join us from the Philippines. She is a climate activist, and she comes from the Philippines but is now living in the UK, because what happens to climate activists in the Philippines is that their lives are in danger, and she got a lot of, wie sagt man, Morddrohungen? She got a lot of bad mail saying that someone is gonna kill her if she is continuing her work. So she's going to talk about this kind of activism that she's doing, but also about the typhoons that happen in the Philippines every year, and at least 5 of them are deadly. So if you're interested, we invite you to join us again, and I leave you with this.